Today, in the gilded opulence of Istanbul's Çırağan Palace, once a sultan's residence, now a five-star sanctuary for diplomacy, delegations from Ukraine and Russia are scheduled to meet once again. But as they gather beneath chandeliers and Ottoman frescoes, the world outside those walls is burning. Last night, Ukraine endured the largest drone and missile barrage since the war began, with over 470 drones and 7 missiles launched by Russia, targeting not soldiers but cities, apartment blocks and training grounds and hospitals. At least 12 Ukrainian soldiers died, dozens more injured. Residential infrastructure lies in ruins, children hurt. These are not battlefield strikes, these are war crimes. In what can only be described as an audacious masterclass in asymmetric warfare, in contrast, Ukraine struck the 5 airfields in Russia itself, not with brutality against civilians, but with precision against armoured vehicles. Operation Pavutna, so a spider's web, targeted 5 Russian airfields across thousands of kilometres, at least 40 long-range strategic bombers, the very planes used to drop missiles on Ukrainian cities and hurt civilians, were reportedly destroyed or damaged. These drones weren't launched from near the front lines. They were smuggled into Russia in hollowed-out timber containers, disguised, concealed under mobile rooftops and launched from inside Russian territory itself. The ingenuity is staggering, the psychological impact incalculable. For the first time in the war, even Siberia felt the sting. This was no random vengeance. This was carefully calculated, the culmination of over 18 months of planning by the SBU, directly overseen by President Zelensky. So against this backdrop, what can we expect from today's talks? Ukraine enters the room with a clear agendum: an unconditional ceasefire, the return of prisoners and the repatriation of abducted children. These are not outlandish demands. They are the bare minimum for civilized negotiation, yet even this basic threshold may prove too much. Russia stands poised, a liminal moment. Russia, meanwhile, has arrived in Istanbul, trailing a cloud of ambiguity. It's promised a memorandum of peace terms, but has refused to disclose its contents in advance, and Kyiv suspects it will demand Ukraine's neutrality, surrender of occupied territories, and a halt to its NATO ambitions. In other words, capitulation. In truth, Putin's playbook is familiar. Stall, bluff, bomb. Then talk of peace while preparing the next strike. The international gallery is watching and squirming. Donald Trump, ever the showman, has styled himself as the architect of peace. His envoy, Keith Kellogg, is in Istanbul. Trump himself recently told Putin he was going crazy. A charming blend of cowboy diplomacy and cable news bravado. But behind the scenes, Washington is divided. Rubio's phone call with Lavrov yesterday, made at Russia's request, hints at quiet desperation. The UK, France and Germany are present too, but scepticism runs high. And then there's Turkey, the host and would-be broker. President Erdogan, under intense domestic pressure, is using the talks to burnish his statesman credentials, even as opposition mayors are jailed and constitutional power plays unfold. And the location, Çırağan Palace, is as much about Turkish grandeur as it is about global mediation. So what now? The cynics say these talks are doomed, that Putin is merely buying time while Russia inches forward on the battlefield, that Zelensky, constrained by just demands, can offer no compromise that would not amount to surrender. But there's also a message in Ukraine's latest drone operation. It's this: the war has changed. Russian impunity no longer extends across its vast hinterland. Ukrainian ingenuity is no longer confined to defense, and public opinion across the free world is no longer willing to tolerate the moral equivalence of blaming both sides. The bombing of civilian infrastructure is a war crime. The targeted destruction of bombers preparing to commit such crimes is not merely legal, it's just. At Çırağan Palace today, diplomacy walks on a knife edge. Ukraine arrives blooded but unbowed, armed not only with drones but with principle. Russia arrives cloaked in imperial nostalgia, hoping to extract by negotiation what it cannot secure through force alone. And we have to be clear. Peace talks are necessary, but peace without justice is merely postponement. I hope the chandeliers in Istanbul illuminate more than opulence today. I hope they light the way to accountability and a ceasefire that actually means something.